Hey guys, welcome to our second lesson in the C++ programming course. In this lesson, we will be learning syntax highlighting. Next, we'll be learning different ways to modify the Hello World program. And then we'll be learning some errors in our program that we commonly make, like it can be a human error, it can be a compiler error. We'll learn about that. And then we're going to learn about data types. Data types are the most fundamental things in C++ programming and in any kind of programming. So without further ado, let's get going. Alright guys, so my initial intention was to actually start off with modifying this whole program in whole Hello World program, but before we move on to that, I decided to tell you something which is called syntax highlighting. Now, syntax highlighting is basically what you see in front of you, the different colors of the words in C++ programming. Now, code blocks program and other IDEs have the syntax highlighting, which puts different parts of a program in different colors so that it is easier to read a program, so that we can understand later on, or if someone else reads our program, he or she will have no difficulty in understanding the different parts of our program. So let's start at the first line and just move down through the program and talk about what the different colors mean. The first line, pound or hashtag include iostream, is written in green or light green. The preprocessor directives, such as this particular one, are written in green. The next line, which is line number 3, is written using namespace std. Now using namespace is written in darker blue. Those are what we call keywords or reserved words. Reserved words are predefined words in the C++, and those are written in darker blue. Then we have the word std, which stands for standard, is written in a bit darker shade of green other than from this first line we see here. In previous versions of code blocks, it's usually in black, so if you're using previous versions, you will see this one is in black. So here in the newer version, it's green, a deeper groove of green. Then what follows is this semicolon, which is of course a statement terminator in C++, like a period or full stop in a sentence, which is in dark red, or some may say vermilion. Alright, moving on to line 5, we have int main and then those two brackets. So int is also an identifier here, hence it's written in darker blue, followed by main, which is the name of a function. Functions such as these are written in black. Then we have this parenthesis, which is in red. Now moving on to line 6, we see these curly braces. As you see, it is already highlighted that the opening and the closing of these braces, so these are also in red. Notice that all of these different punctuation marks, these are actually punctuation marks in our common day-to-day using language, so these are all in some form of red. Alright, in line number 7 we have cout, which is of course an identifier, and again it's written in a darker groove of green, followed by two put2 operators, which is again punctuation marks, and these are written in vermilion or red, followed by hello world inside these quotes, which as we know, strings. Strings are a data type, I will discuss them later, and strings in C++ are written in a lighter blue. As you can see, lighter blue, and this is darker blue. And then afterwards we have the put2 operator again, and endl. Endl is again also an identifier, and followed by a statement closer. Then on line number 8 we have again return. Return is also an identifier. We will talk about identifiers in the next lesson in detail, I guess. So again, return is in dark blue, followed by 0. Now 0 is a number, and numbers in C++ program in code blocks IDE is written in, I guess, purplish or magenta, whatever looks right in your eye. I think this is purple or pink, I'm sorry. Anyway, so after that we again have the semicolon and then the closing curly braces. Now this closing curly braces is again in red, of course, because as we see as before, which is punctuation marks are in red. So syntax highlighting is a feature of almost all major IDEs, and it will provide you with some benefits when you are trying to learn languages, as well as later on when you are just trying to program and debug program. Now that we have seen what syntax highlighting is, let us see the modifications we can make to the Hello World program to get us a little bit more practice building and running programs. The first thing we can do is split up the phrase Hello World into two separate strings. We can do that by like adding a comma, putting here this, and then put to operator, and again start up the quote here. So let's build and run that program by clicking on the build and run button and see what happens. And here is my antivirus again. Yeah, so we see that basically no change has happened to our program, and that's okay, because what we just told the compiler is just print hello, this much string, and then again world without anything in between. I mean, like, so it's the same thing. Another way to do the same thing is like separating these two statements, like hello in this single string right here, and then putting a semicolon ending this statement, pressing the enter key to go to the next line, and then typing in cout. You may have noticed that when I was trying to type in cout, the compiler or the IDE is already bringing up some completion for what we are trying to type. So the editor tries to figure out what you're going to type, and when it thinks it knows, like you can just press the tab key and select whichever you want. For example, if I like put n, it's gonna come out count, but we can press the tab key and there you go, count, but we're not gonna use count here. That's a different thing. We're gonna use cout. It's better to just type out the whole word, just feels better. So anyway, so now we have the hello world separated into two different statements, and that's okay. And let's see what the results give us. Let's build and run the program, and look, there has been no differences to this program whatsoever. So now that we have learned three different ways to do the same program, it feels like an overkill, but anyway, let's move on. So something else that I want to show you guys is, what if we want to like put this whole string separated into two different lines, right? So like right now we have hello world in a single line. What if we want hello in one line and world in another line? I know many of you have been wondering that, so let's get to it. So after hello, we can put this, if we are doing it in two different like statements, put to operator and then end L. This is an L, not a 1. Be sure of that. End L stands for end line, and let's build our modified program, and there you go, hello world in two different lines. There is another way to do it. Say we want it to be in a single line, like we don't want it in two different statements. So we can remove this, we can remove this, we go back, and then here we can put that put to operator and type in end L. Guess what happens? You guessed it, it is the same thing. Well, that's about all the modifications we can do to our hello world program. Next, we're going to learn about errors. The reason why we need to talk about errors is because you all who are watching these videos and are participating in this course are all beginners, and beginners make mistakes, like a lot of mistakes. For example, leaving out an operator, or misspelling a word, leaving out some semicolon, stuff like that, basically syntax errors. So we need to make sure that you're aware of them. Now CodeBlox IDE is already built to show these errors. For example, this program that we just made, which is our hello world program, if you remove the semicolon, which is the statement terminator, and build and run it, we will see that it will give us an error. See, it says on line 8, it says int function int main parentheses error expected semicolon before return. Now the error actually is in line 7, but the red block here is showing that the error is in line 8. This is because of how the compiler functions. Most compiler functions like it compiles, it reads the whole line and goes to the next line. So when it hit the word return here, it expected that there should be something before return. That's why it showed this red block. So let's put a semicolon here, not in the previous place, and see what happens. And of course my computer will be slow, and you again. Yeah, so now you see that the program runs just fine because spaces doesn't matter. We just remove this and put the semicolon back and it will work just fine. Another kind of error that beginner programmers make is like misspelling a word. For example, this return, which is a reserved word in C++, so let's misspell it by intentionally remove the U, so it becomes RETRN, and now you see the color is also changed to black because there is no such word, so it's automatically showing you. But let's make this error anyways and see what it shows here. Int function int main error RETRN was not declared in this scope, which means in this scope, which is the int main function, RETRN is not declared, which means this thing does not exist. So let's put the U back here, and there we have it. Another kind of error which makes people crazy is like when you are typing really fast. Like, okay, so what happens is you, like, this thing becomes cut instead of cout. So the same thing is going to happen when you build and run. See, cut was not declared, so we fix that. The next more like a warning for this error, like a precaution for this error, goes out to fast typers mainly, because slow typers will not usually miss this. Fast typers are going to miss this put to operator. Now cout is usually followed by the put to operator, which tells us that whatever follows after that put to operator should be put into the console. So if you miss this, it's like cout hello and then onwards. So let's build and run this program, and we see that this time this error, it's a bit different. Like now it says in function int main error expected semicolon, but now you may ask that where is the semicolon? There was no semicolon, it was actually a put to operator. Well, the compiler actually does not know that, okay, because the cout function is defined to have the put to operator after it, but the compiler gets this deserved word, it compiles, okay, then that's great, and then it just sees this string, but it does not know what to do with this string, and hence it thinks that this statement should have come to an end, and it shows the semicolon. These 3-4 examples are the common types of examples for syntax errors which you guys are going to make. Next type of error we have are logical errors. So logical errors are very much more difficult to find because the compiler compiles them perfectly, but you will not be able to get the exact result because the compiler actually does not know what kind of result, what kind of output your brain wants or you want. So for logical errors, as we go along this course forward in the future, I will show you step by step. Whenever we will encounter an error, I will show you how to get out of that error or what to do in that situation. So we have reached the last segment of today's lesson. and in this segment we're going to talk about data types, but very briefly. Data types are one of the most important stuffs, well, okay fine, the most important stuff that you need to know when programming. So moving on, we're going to see some basic fundamental data types of C or C++ or Python or Java in any programming language. The first fundamental data type is integers. We all know what integers are. Starting from negative infinity, like say negative 30, negative 29, negative 28, 27, 26, and then coming up to 0, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to infinity. These whole numbers I repeat, are integers, and we define them as int. In the Hello World program we have seen int main, and there int is also mentioned as integers. The second data type we have are floating point numbers. Some of you guys who are watching this might not know what floating point numbers are. They may know it as something called decimal numbers. Well, it's not decimal numbers, it's floating point numbers. Decimal numbers or floating point numbers, however you say it, it means something like 0.63 or 5.192. This point something, this fraction of a number which we are expressing as point here are called floating point numbers, and we use float in our programming for this. Next we have double precision floating point numbers. Well, the difference between float and double is basically double has double the memory allocated for this reserved keyword. Nothing much different, they're the same thing. But in C++ we're going to keep using double, and in C float is much more popular. Not sure why. I guess it's because of the time, but time of discovery or the age of the language, but double is what we're going to use in C++. Next we have strings. Now in the bracket we have seen that I have kept these quotation marks. Now strings, when we wrote cout, put to operator, and then double quotes, hello world, that double quote defines strings, like sentences or characters, whatever inside those double quotes is strings. Next we have is char or character. It usually is a single character, like a single ASCII character, like it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, Q, W, E, R, T, Y. It can be a full stop, it can be a comma, any ASCII character. Next we have a table for you guys. So here we're going to show a few other types of data types. We have one is long, short, bool, byte, etc. We have all of these things. Long is basically like long, like literally long. Long int, we use this in programming as long int, and it gives like a larger range. So in this table we see the first one is bool or boolean, which is 1 bit. Its size reserved is 1 bit. It is usually true or false, 0 or 1. That's true or false, on or off, just one value. Next we have char. It has 2 bytes or 16 bit of data, and the range is 0 to 65,535. Anything in between can be put inside char, like A, B, C, D, whatever. Next we have is byte. 8 bit is equals to 1 byte, and its range is minus 128 to 127. Basically 256. 256 is the range, and this usually stores values of short values like registry keys. Registry editor in Windows, right? It stores as DW word 32 byte or something like that, so it usually stores keys. Next we have short integers, which is like short, so anything like short float, short integers. If you put short in front of something, it becomes the whole memory's allocation for that uh, data type, like short int, becomes smaller. So here integer is usually 32 bits or 4 bytes. When you put short integer, the allocation size becomes 16 bit or 2 bytes, and the range is given as follows right here. Next we have long integer. Long integer is what happens is the normal size of this integer, which is 32 bits, becomes double, 64 bytes or 8 bytes, and its range is huge, like huge. Sometimes when you are programming, if there is a value that cannot suffice within this range, within the normal range of -2147483648 to 2147488647, then we can use long int. But usually that thing does not happen, maybe in huge programs, huge memory consuming programs maybe, but in real life not so much, but we'll see in the future. Next we have float, 32 bits 4 bytes, and it varies because floats, I mean, come on, 4.62, 4.63, 4.635, I mean, the range is huge. And double is the same as float, but like I said before, it has double precision, which means it's double the size of normal float, and it's much bigger. It can hold bigger data than float, and also its range varies. So that's all we have for today's lesson. Hope you guys enjoyed, and